Good morning. Oh, good afternoon, guys. Sorry for the delay. We are back again for the lunch break show, and today we'll be talking about the racing car, so the Formula One. And today we're just going to do a brief breakdown of what Formula One is, how the sport is organized, and also get to touch about the weekend's Mugello Grand Prix. So today we have Mpho, our usual Formula One expert or fanatic, just to share a bit of information about the sport and give us updates about the weekend. So Mpho, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me once again this week to talk about the most interesting. I also like to know the most prestigious sport in the whole world and the pinnacle of motorsports. Obviously, that is Formula One. My name is Mpho. I am a writer uh, and a fanatic of Formula Sport, most precisely Formula One. I am also currently following Indy cars and Formula Two, though I am not really much abreast on them, but those are what I'm actually following right now and learning the gist of it.
Okay. First things first, for those number one, those racing cars, can you maybe briefly break down the sports in terms of what Formula One is? How? Okay, let's just break it down in terms of what Formula One is first.
Okay. Oh, you mean how the sports actually evolved?
Yeah, and a brief history, if you may.
Okay. Formula One is a motorsport, and like we have mentioned in the past, it's when we say the pinnacle, we mean it's the most. There are different kind of motorsports that we have. Indy cars, we have Formula Two, and obviously Formula One. And Formula One is we have the best drivers and the best cars, the best engineers on the grid, making sure that they going hand in hand together to bring the most wonderful car and giving us the sport itself on daily basis. So Formula One, how it works or what transpires on a day basis, or generally how we get to have a winner at the end of the day. We have about 20 drivers and 10 teams. So I think most of the people know Ferrari, they know your McLaren, they know your Mercedes, but there are other cars like your Alfa Romeo and your Haas. So each and every team has about two drivers, the first driver and the second driver. So when we say the first driver, it's not just in terms of a number saying one, two, three, but it's the first driver. Like let's take for example a Mercedes car. They have two drivers. They have Lewis Hamilton and then they have Valtteri Bottas. So Lewis Hamilton is he's upper than Valtteri Bottas. So there is their top driver. So they have the second driver. So in a case where maybe one of them is not there to participate in a Grand Prix, they would have the third driver. So on practice sessions, that's when the third driver may, not all the time, may actually take the seat to just try to also get to drive through the
Okay.
practice session.
And
Yes.
and then usually what we've seen, there are three race days. Maybe you can break it down for us because usually there is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What happens during those individual days?
All right. In Formula One, what actually happens is that we have three practice sessions and a qualifying and a race. Three practice sessions, a qualifying and a race. And in practice sessions, there are three practice sessions, right? The first two practice sessions are done on Friday. In the morning on Friday, we would have the first practice session, and in the afternoon we would have the second practice session, and then on Saturday morning we'll have the third practice session. So there are three practice sessions in that case. So the purpose of the practice sessions, what are they done? What is the purpose of those practice sessions? The purpose of those practices, if you are aware, in maybe I should have started by that we have different circles. When you say a circle, we are talking about if in South Africa they have a circle, but it hasn't been used, I think, for a longer period of time. And I think in Morocco we also have a circuit. So a Formula One is not only done in one circuit, right? So
Yes.
that means that it can be done in Monaco, in the US, it can be done in Italy, it can be done in Belgium. That's why we always be saying Belgium Grand Prix, Italian Grand Prix. So the purpose of those practice sessions is to actually allow the drivers to learn the circuit, right? And the teams to actually be to test their car. It allows the team to test their cars. So that is the purpose of those practice sessions, all those three practice sessions. Then that's why I also mentioned earlier on that we would be having two drivers in Mercedes or two drivers in Ferrari, having Charles Leclerc and having your Sebastian Vettel, and then having your third driver. But I wouldn't know the third driver of Ferrari because they don't usually use them. So I would say that so that is the purpose of that, to test their third drivers maybe, and also for Charles Leclerc as a driver to learn the circuit, to be able, because those different circuits, they are different, so they are able to be comfortable in those circuits. That's the purpose of the practice sessions, and then you have your qualifying on Saturday. Again, on Saturday we'll be having the third one, which is the qualifying, not the practice. And on the qualifying, it's quite, if you watch Formula One for the first time and you have watched the race like myself, I had watched the final race before watching the practice sessions and then the qualifying. So the next race, because I was getting interested, I
Yeah.
watched the qualifying, then I got confused because it's totally different from the race itself. Because on the qualifying, you would realize that they are Q1, Q2, and your Q3.
Two, three.
So in
Yeah.
the knockout system. So the three period knockout system, and the three knockout practice system. If I hope I'm going to explain it precisely. There's on Q1, there will be 20 drivers from all the teams, from all the 10 teams, right? So on the what will happen is that on Q1 we would have to eliminate five teams or five drivers who don't qualify in the according to the period that is said. So
So,
in five drivers will be eliminated. Yes, sorry.
the five drivers that are eliminated, are they the ones with the slowest lap time, or there's another criteria?
No, slowest lap time. So your Sebastian Vettel has been knocked out quite a lot Q1 and Q2 in the past Grand Prix. So
Yeah.
same applies to Q2. The in Q2 the only 15, they're supposed to race under a period of 15 minutes. I hope that is not changed because FIA
Yeah.
it
15,
tends
yeah.
to change. Yeah, FIA, the governing body of Formula One, keeps changing rules and all and regulations of the game. So that's one of the things that we should be aware of. I think it's 15 minutes per time in Q2, and then another five drivers are supposed to be eliminated to allow 10. So the race has to on the qualifying, on qualifying on Saturday, we're supposed to be ending with 10 drivers at the end of the day, and at the end of Q3, the qualifying three.
Yeah.
Yes, at the end of qualifying three. And then on the qualifying, the driver who finishes first, or who finishes at the finishing line first, he takes a pole position. That is why we always say Lewis Hamilton has got a pole position. I think most people would be what are you talking about? So he'll be taking what is called a pole position. The one who has qualified on the who had finished first on Saturday, he takes a pole for that.
And then race day.
Yes. Race day. On race day we have it's a race day. It's quite different from your qualifying day or from your previous day because it's done on Sunday, and then you have all your 20 drivers. It's quite different again. I think on my first times when I was watching Formula One, I had thought that what will happen um, would have your 10 drivers competing against each other, but that is not the case with Formula 2. All the 20 drivers would be back on the grid, and what would happen that the first driver who qualified or who took a pole on Saturday would be the one the cars will be assembled according to who finished who qualified first on Saturday. So your Lewis Hamilton will be at the front of the pack as usual on on Saturday, and then we'll be having a formation lap. Uh, Maybe some people will be quite confused there on Saturday, on Sunday, sorry, on the race day, where we'll be having a formation lap. On the formation lap, we would be having the cars will be assembled according to who finished first, right? And then um, yeah, the formation lap is not the start of the race. It's actually done for it's actually done to allow the cars to be getting comfortable on the race on that particular day, and then we would be uh, for the safety car. No one is supposed to pass each other or overtake during the formation lap. No one is supposed to do that. The safety car would be in front of that. And then there are going to be lights that allow the race to start. And then we'll be having the start of the race. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Yes. And then the race will start on that ground. And then the laps that are supposed, I think 52 laps that are supposed to finish. And then the first person who's going to finish at the first of the finishing line will be the winner of the day. And then I put yeah,
Oh yeah.
I think
And then
that's the best.
for those that get to watch the sport, there are times where we see them entering the pits to change tires. Maybe if you have a bit of information, what type of tires are these guys using?
I couldn't hear your question.
The type of tires that they're using, they're constantly changing tires. Maybe you can break down some of the tires that they are using and why they have to change them so often.
Yes. They you if you I think people for you to understand it, for you to keep watching the sport. There are medium tires and all that. There's what you call strategies on the right. So it depends on the race is won on strategies and the type of tires you would actually uh, use. You don't just use small, medium, whatever. It depends on a different how it depends on how you had planned your race and all that, and different labs and all that. Different labs um, requires different strategies to be employed by a team. So the driver, sometimes the pitting, what do you call it, pitting times and all that. So a driver can go for pitting depending on what they think. If the tires are not allowing him to continue, they would have to change, because sometimes the tires will be worn out. That's where would be having your the crashes during the game. So they keep on having to change the tires because of incidences like that. But also not only that, because of the strategies that they have to employ. Different tires have to be used depending on the laps that they are in, or generally that. So it's strategies that are employed. So different tires are employed also, maybe because the tires have to change once once in a while in a lap. You can't, and you can be penalized for not for not. So it's
For not changing
very
your
tough.
tires.
Yes, you have to keep, because imagine you are posing a danger to other drivers, because you can crash and then crash on others. So it's
Oh,
very important for you to.
and then, I think a few weeks ago you had
It's
mentioned,
a sport of, I think, for you to actually, even if we can explain in depthly,
yeah,
you have to keep watching. I think somebody would understand what I'm talking about. Someone who has watched the sport, maybe twice or that. You don't have to
yeah,
watch it for a longer period of time for you to understand. You have to keep watching, watching the practices, watching the qualifiers, watching all those. Because if you decide to watch the race on its own, you won't understand. You will keep on here repeating, changing medium tires, and then all those, and then you wouldn't be understand. So I'm not really um there, but I'm trying with what I have
to
observed and
understand.
what I continually see
Yeah.
on
And
every
then
day.
a while back you had mentioned Kansadi like engines. Are teams allowed to customize their own engines, or there is a set standard for each team in terms of the type of engine that they should have in their car?
Yes, we had mentioned that uh, a race is not only about a driver given a car and then that is get into the grid. There are people who are working around the clock. I hope you're watching last week. You see people who are changing the tires and all that. So
Yeah.
it's a sport of innovation. Is who brings, it's not only about you. I think some people get confused when they start reading the comments of maybe an anti-Lewis person or an anti Charles Leclerc person who would say, he's winning because of the car. He's winning because of the car. Yes, that's how it is. It's a sport of innovation. You have to bring the best car in the grid. You will have your Kimi Raikkonen. Many people believe Kimi, the Alpha driver, is the most talented person, as in terms of pace. If we were to bring the same cars on the grid, many people believe that Kimi would be the
Dominate.
winner, or he would dominate at the end of the day. That's what we always say. Is Lewis doesn't just win because of talent; he also wins because of people who are around him. So it's all about, when you talk about, you were asking a question on customization of engines. Mercedes has the best engine, um, and your Ferraris and your McLaren, and all those other teams, your Racing Point, Aston Martin. But they are allowed to come with their own engine. But in terms of the rules on how they actually they are supposed to follow the rules before they can there are rules that they are supposed to abide by. No, they don't just come with the engine before they can come up with those engines and all that. Before they innovate their engines every year, they come up with something new based on how the rules. They looking at the rules, not just coming out with an engine. So they are allowed to customize it, but following the PR.
And then how are points allocated in terms of who
How are
wins points?
points?
How are points allocated per win or per driver?
Okay, the point system in Formula One is such a way that, like we had already mentioned when we started, we have 20 drivers. So not all the 20 drivers will score points. Yesterday, I was listening to Sebastian Vettel. saying he finished on P10 actually, so he got a
Yeah.
point after so much struggle. So there's a young driver by the name of George Russell who's driving a William car. He was saying he was driving faster than me. I hope he had actually made his first point in Formula One. He's a young driver, so he was looking forward to make his first point in Formula. Unfortunately, and I was crying actually because I really liked him. I really wanted him. He's a young driver with so much potential, and I wanted him to really make a point. And Sebastian was actually making the same, but he couldn't just allow him to pass through to finish on. It was unfortunate that incident happened. So what happens is that the point system is allocated on the first 10, the first 10 drivers,
Yeah.
the first 10. The first, I don't have the numbers now because I wasn't aware of that. But we have the first driver. I think it takes about. I would know about my team because it's always like, so I know Louis always getting 25,
The big one is it
25
25?
points.
Yeah.
25 points, yes. So I wouldn't, I'm not sure about the second. I think the second driver
It's
takes
18.
18,
Yeah, the second
18
one is
years.
18.
And then downwards. And then I think
Yeah.
that the last year. So it's based according to the first 10 drivers. So I don't, I wasn't aware of that question. I would have uh, from first one, second one, third one, up to the last, or the tenth one,
Uh,
or
let's
yes.
take maybe a typical example of what happened in Monza last week, where there was a safety car after a crash. What's the purpose of a safety car, and usually what's the protocol that should be followed in such cases?
Okay. And the safety car is deployed mostly, usually when the conditions of the circuit or the grid are posing danger to the drivers, or yes. So it's it may be in a condition where there is a crash. Most people only know a safety car usually when it's deployed, usually when there is a crash, or when there is uh, if there is a rain which can cause, I get that it will be wet, and then the conditions
Where
may pose danger
yeah.
to, yes. So it's deployed mostly when the conditions, we can't just say when there is a crash, but we say when the conditions of the circuit are posing danger to um to the race. So the
Um,
safety car would actually be I had mentioned earlier the purpose of the safety car. What where, when is it used? Well, it's actually uh, there is going to be a lap, that lap, what we call the first lap. The safety car will be deployed. All the cars are supposed to follow that safety car till the race director um, gives a go ahead for the race to
and then
continue.
I think you've broken down the beginner's guide to someone who just joined or who's interested in watching Formula One. And then also the 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 F1 was in Mugello this past weekend. We saw another the driver, and maybe you can break down as to what happened. We know your team got P1 and 2. Just break down the race for us and tell us what happened.
Okay. We were in the first Formula One, which was held in Mugello. That's the first Formula One, what that was held in Mugello. Not that Mugello is a new circuit, it has been there, but this was the first Formula One race that was held in Mugello, and it was not called the Italian GP as it was initially uh, uh, noted. It's called the Tuscan GP. The Tuscan GP, where we saw a 1-2 for Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas finishing on P2, and Lewis Hamilton finishing on P1. And then that was Lewis Hamilton's 90th career victory in Formula One, and he's just I think left with one or two. to actually to break the record of Michael Schumacher. And then what actually that's what's that. And the third person that actually finished on P3, it was his first podium finish. Podium finish, we are meaning that in Formula Sports, there's one, two, three. The first people who are going to finish position one, two, three. So we saw Alexander Albon of Red
Yeah.
Bull
Red
finishing
Bull.
on
Yeah.
P3, and Max Verstappen unfortunately uh, got a DNF for this particular race. He couldn't finish the race.
I think
As
with Verstappen, I think was it the first lap where him and Gasly got involved in that accident. Was it the first lap?
oh, I couldn't hear you. And sorry.
Yeah, the incident they have Verstappen in the Gasly. Was it in the first lap or I think it was midway through the race?
It actually transpired as the first lap,
Yeah.
the incident of yes, of Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly, where there was a collision that happened there. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to actually narrate the collision, because I watched. Maybe someone in the comments can actually give us a more in depth of what actually transpired, because I watched the race, I think on the fifth, seventh lap, when
Yeah.
quite a number of incidents had actually transpired. But I'm aware that on Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly actually had a collision, and then they were out. They were the first people to go out, and then the red flag was the red flag, or the session was stopped on that particular note. And then we had another red flag for in the same race, where we had about four drivers. Yeah, four
Yeah.
drivers. Yes,
It was
four
bad.
drivers get. It was a very major crash, according to
Yeah.
what I've heard. I only watched after the crash, all the two sessions. I actually followed afterwards, because I couldn't watch the race from that time. So there was a major collision. But one thing about Formula One, which is very interesting, is that everyone came unscathed. There was no one who came out with, because those cars are well engineered, and it's not just your usual cars. If people could have actually died, I think your Antonio was very angry. There was one driver was very angry at Valtteri Bottas. I couldn't.
I had over
He
I
was
had over
very very angry
one
with the
of
radio.
the radio clips. Yeah, he was
Yes,
literally mad. He was using
yes,
some cuss word and they had to beep it.
yes. But because I think there was an issue where people were saying Valtteri Bottas might have contributed towards the crash. Yes.
But yeah,
So yes, but according to the rules, where there's a group where I am. Those some people were actually saying, but the FIA rules do not couldn't charge give penalty to Valtteri, because there's no rule that actually could charge him for that particular instance. I think he was flagging, so that contributed to that crash.
and then who was your driver of the day except
According
Hamilton?
to the you mean myself, or generally
Yourself,
the out myself.
yourself.
Uh,
Yeah,
my driver of the day would be Kimi Raikkonen, the Alfa Romeo. I believe, you know what, I'm being fair. I love Lewis Hamilton. I
yeah,
cannot take anything from Lewis. Lewis have proven himself, despite the fact that he's driving a good car, the best car. He
yeah,
has driven. He's not like he started with Mercedes. Come on, he started with McLaren. He was winning championships. Even your Max Verstappen hasn't even won. Looking at Max age and Lewis age, during Lewis time, when at the same time at Max Verstappen he was winning. When both Kimi Raikkonen were winning race, they were your Michael Schumachers were there, but Lewis was making sure that he wins. But right now, Lewis is dominating all of them, despite the fact that he's uh, he's has been there before. But my driver of the day would be Kimi Raikkonen. Kimi Raikkonen is he has been there. Most people have told him, have said to him before that he's old, he should retire and all that. He has driven a Ferrari before with Sebastian Vettel. I think that's the time when I started watching Formula 2. He has driven a Ferrari before. He was one. He's an old driver who has been there before and has been doing very well. And why I am picking him as the driver of the day, he is driving a slow car. As old as he is, where people believe that he should be giving the younger ones a chance, he's still he got a penalty, a 5 seconds penalty for one of the crashes. I think the crash for Perry Gasly and Max Verstappen, he got a penalty for that. And despite that, he finished P9. He was ahead of Sebastian Vettel, the 7-time champion.
I
So
know, I,
we can
I
realize
know you had to
he
bring.
passed Sebastian Vettel. No, I
I
love
know you had to
Sebastian Vettel.
bring Ferrari in.
I have to put Ferrari in because they have. We are assuming that they should be having a good car. Every driver wants to drive a Ferrari, but looking
Yeah.
at the state of Ferrari now, they were actually celebrating the 1,000 Grand Prix on Saturday, and Mugello is one of their projects actually. Yeah.
And then
Yes.
Ferrari P3, I think P8 and P10. Is there any hope for us? At least maybe number 2 or 3 on the constructors standing.
On the constructors standings, I might have a result here with me, but I
So
know Mercedes. You want to see the standing on the constructors.
no, I mean, Jorge, I know we're a bit down. I don't know if
Yes.
maybe you think we'll get to bounce
Yeah,
back.
because you gain a score with you gain points this week, and
8 and 10.
unfortunately, I didn't get to check if there was a difference in terms of
Yeah.
Ferrari going down up this past weekend. But I know you gain points with Charles Leclerc in P8 and Sebastian finishing on P10.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, that on its own contributes. There's a chance. So if you can if you say is there a chance? Yes, I could say there is a yes.
In wrapping up, where are we this weekend? Where is the Formula One headed to?
Mm,
Where are we heading to this weekend?
they,
Mpho? Mpho? Can you hear me?
hello,
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
hello.
Can you hear me now? Mpho? Can you hear me? Mpho?
Hello.
Hi, Mpho. Can you hear me
Hello,
now?
Tabang.
Yes. Can you hear me? Seems like we've lost a bit of audio. Let's try and reconnect and see if you can hear us. Mpho, can you hear us now? Mpho? Uh, guys, we had a bit of interruption, but thank you for those that joined in. We are wrapping up the show. We started a bit late, but thank you once again for those that joined and leave your comments, questions. I think we'll come back and get to answer them for those that have questions. So once again, thank you. See you again in the next episode or the next broadcast of the show. Bye.